I believe this is a 1930s or possibly an early 1940s SS Stewart. The top is cracked in several places. There's a bunch of stuff rattling around on the inside. The frets are worn down and the fingerboard has deep grooves in it. The tuners are also impossible to use. That bridge was glued in place, or the half of it that still exists. I have taken the liberty of removing the back already. I did a very poor job of removing the back, at least initially. I tried many things. I tried heat. I tried razor blade. I tried sawing through it. Ultimately, a putty knife was the right thing to use. It's created a lot of work for me later. I have to replace all that binding, and, well, the binding would have had to been replaced anyways, but the kerfing, the little wooden strips that hold the back in place, now need to be replaced because of the damage I caused. The back also needs to be re-leveled. This is a recurring theme here. The laminated back and sides, it's just delaminating everywhere. And on goes the first clamp of many, many clamps. More delamination and possible damage from me trying to remove the top. You can see on the top half there, the part of the guitar that's on the top half of the screen, the binding or the kerfing came off very clean over there. That's about when I figured out how to do it correctly. May not show on camera, but there is a lot of dust in here. More delamination. I'm using Titebond 2 wood glue. It's like Titebond 1, but it's water resistant. When removing the heel block, or the neck block, I guess, it was damaged. But it's an easy glue up. The heel block is cracked and broken, and I did not do this part. This was damaged right from the trash where it came from. My parents actually found this in the garbage on the side of the road and picked it up. They were going to use it as a sign for music jams. And I said, well, I'd like to practice working on instruments on it. So they said, okay, take it. At this point in the process, I'm feeling very pessimistic. I'm unsure if I'm going to be able to repair the back, all of the delamination, lots of missing wood in places. The top is destroyed. There's been some poor repairs here. You can see all the clothespin halves that were glued in order to keep the top intact. Based on the low accuracy of their placement, I'm thinking it was done through the F-holes. I'm carefully saving all these pieces because there are a few pieces of delaminated laminate on there. Or how would you say that? A few pieces of laminate there. I want to glue that back if I can. Off with the nut. And off with the hardware. This guitar is a bit of an enigma. No guitar would be built like this today. The beautiful herringbone binding along the edge, but they didn't make it line up, so it becomes checkerboard on half of it. Still looks beautiful. A great spruce top, and the laminate quality is almost better on the inside than it is on the outside of the instrument. Very unusual. Brazilian rosewood fingerboard with brass frets. This is very heavily corroded, although it's difficult to see. Almost none of the original nickel finish remains. Earlier I said that this is glued on, and it is. But I got extremely lucky. The glue that they used is hot glue. So it did very little damage coming off. You can see it wants to come off, but it just won't. There we go. Yuck, what were they thinking? Look at that. Here's a closer look at the cracks that weren't really apparent in the opening video. They're long, they're deep, they're prevalent, they're everywhere. They were previously repaired too, and some different types of glue, wood glue in this case, was used to seal them. It was done very poorly. They need to come off. Fortunately, it is coming off right along the crack seam, at least so far. That was scary, but it was good. Bit of poor editing there. But I am actually working on the crack from the other side, I believe, or it's either that or I'm removing, oh, yes. So I am removing the clothespin because that is preventing the crack from opening up. Here I'm trying to salvage as much of the binding as possible. This one crack was still connected on both ends to the guitar, So it's simply a matter of placing glue in it, clamping it up, and letting it dry. The little block on the other side there was to hold it at the correct position height-wise. It had a tendency to want to fold into the guitar. It had probably been in that position for decades. I'm first placing this tape on my shirt or a piece of wood to help remove some of the tackiness from it. The tape will pull this finish off. It's so delicate. However, I ultimately make the decision to remove the finish anyways. It's difficult to see because the video is sped up, but I was sort of using my thumb there as a suction cup until I could tell that the glue was coming through the other side. Now to remove the last of the binding and the kerfing here. What a pain. It was completely unnecessary too. Had I not improperly taken off the top. Okay, now we're clamping a few of the pieces together before putting it in as a whole. Tiny pieces. More clamps, fixing some delamination on the outside heel. Here I tried to sand through the clear coat and also sand through the finish, and I was contemplating refinishing it, and then I realized by the time I had got through the stain, there was no wood left. It was guaranteed that I was going to sand all the way through this veneer at some point. So I did my best to dye it back the original color, and I iterate on that later, and it becomes acceptable. Another mistake in the process, though. I suppose it's a happy mistake to make, though, because you know now that it is a mistake, and you have a rough idea how to fix it if something like that occurs before you receive the instrument. More gluing and clamping. Here a little bit of the top had disappeared when the heel came off. So I'm mixing up some super glue and wood filler. Well, wood dust to make my own wood filler. And now I'm taking a razor sharp scraper and I'm just getting rid of the remnants of kerfing. Ultimately, I'll end up sanding it. But the scraper does a great job of getting almost all of it. Lots of damage here. This may have been repaired at one time before I'd received it, but I believe that gap was there from the factory. I don't know why, but I am gluing those pieces back up there. I'm trying to save as much as the original wood as possible. The remaining gaps will be filled or inlaid. And we've almost got all of the kerfing off. I'm going with super glue here because it's impossible to get a syringe into this crack, and it's fairly stable otherwise. Capillary action will pull it in and stabilize the wood there. And that damage was actually just from the factory. The back of this, or the inside back of this, is bird's eye maple, which is my favorite kind of maple. I really wanted to see what it looks like. And I also had an idea that putting a little bit of shellac on there would prevent moisture from causing damage in the future, or make it at least a little bit stable. The weather there is the weather that's going on right now in the garage. That's why you see me bundled up here. It's very cold. And on with the new kerfing. Purchased from Stu Mac. The clamps are from Harbor Freight, much cheaper than Stu Mac. And I'm going to methodically try to place all of the remaining supports back where they came from. We get most of them. The top piece is now glued in, and we're fixing a crack that was in the side, or on the top, up near the neck. Here we're cutting some, I'm not sure what that is. It might be Douglas fir. I believe that's Douglas fir that I had laying around the shop. It's a very old piece of Douglas fir. And we made braces because those cracks, I'm not sure about them being totally repaired solely with the glue. My dad thought it would be a good idea to repurpose the clothespins of the original repair in the instrument somehow. I agreed with that. The original clothespins aren't made out of spruce or something like you might expect. They are maple. So it's actually really good material. We're popping out some of the hide glue squeeze out from the original build. Allows us to see some of the joints where some of the braces weren't fully attached anymore. So we re-glued those. And this is just natural wear, but I'm adding a bit of red dye because, well, it's sort of ugly to me, and I want it to be pretty. I decided to coat the whole inside of the guitar as well with the shellac. I don't really like the way it looks with the shellac. I like the bare wood, but I do think this will help with stability. And the other thing is I find these arch tops to be really muddy sounding, and I'm hoping that this helps make it a little bit brighter. And I don't have any evidence to prove that that happened, but the end result is brighter than I expected and a little bit clearer. So maybe it does work. In any case, it won't cause any damage. And it's reversible very easily if anyone ever wants to go to the trouble of taking this instrument apart again and removing it. You can sort of see here on this guitar, the sides have really great flame maple. I think they put the laminate inside out. It's so much more beautiful on the inside. The only justification I can see for it not being that way is there's that one gap in the wood that you can see up there by my hand now. We repaired earlier with super glue. That was original. And clamps. Lots and lots of clamps. That was the largest expense of this project. It's about $100 in clamps. Time to take the frets off. I'm having a lot more confidence at this point, now that the back is back on. There's still a bit of work related to that, but I'm feeling optimistic. Checked the neck angle at this point, and it's playable. However, the bridge needs to be in a fairly low position. So we will be foregoing a neck reset, in other words. Here you can see the new frets match the old frets, except they're a little bit wider. We're also moving from brass to Evo Gold, which is like stainless steel. A slight bow in the neck. We're going to remove some wood from the top, and we're going to remove a lot of wood from the headstock area. This is okay because this maple, or this Brazilian rosewood, is very, very thick. And we're also trying to get through as much of those deep grooves up there in the open chord positions as we can without going through the inlays. This was also originally sanded to something like 200 grit. It's very rough. You could see the sandpaper lines. It's ugly. Despite our best efforts with sanding, there were some low spots still. We'd removed 90% of them, and the remaining ones just bugged me. This is unnecessary, but I'm adding sawdust that was actually created by the fingerboard and super gluing it in place, and it leaves a little darker sort of finish in those areas, but it's very difficult to see. We're just cleaning out the fret slots here. We're not really making them deeper. They were already too deep to begin with, and they're about the correct length now. Now here I have made a terrible mistake, aside from letting the fret fly across the room. I wonder if you can figure out what it is. Well, if you guessed that I did not radius that fret wire before cutting it, you would be correct. So those were all radius by hand. Normally I would suggest just throwing the wire away and starting over. But in this case I used Evo Gold, which they don't make anymore. Evo Gold is like a stainless steel, but it has like a copper mixed in it, probably copper. It gives it a gold appearance, which sort of makes it look like the original brass frets, but it's actually quite a bit stronger than even nickel steel frets, which are commonly found on guitars. It's a very high-end product. All right, time to file down those fret ends. This process always makes me uncomfortable. And the original tuners were Clusions. Made in Chicago, Illinois, I believe. And here we've got the binding put on. A prelude to what's about to happen, I guess. A little bit out of order there. Here you saw me putting on some shellac, and I put the shellac around the finish on the instrument in hopes that the tape would now damage the shellac rather than the actual finish. I'm sure that it helped, but This painter's tape did still damage the finish while taking it off. Ultimately, I used heat to prevent too much damage from happening, but green tape is quite a bit better. And we're cleaning up those fret ends, just rounding them off a little. And off with the rest of this finish. I decided there was no way I was going to ever get this finish to look even homogeneous, never mind good. And some of the cracks didn't perfectly line up level. It's just a few thousandths of an inch off, but it's really, really noticeable, and I wanted it to be smooth. The only way to achieve that is to sand it down. There's some sort of staining where the pick guard used to be. I don't know what caused that, but my hunch is that it somehow cracked there, the lacquer, and then someone tried to polish it or put lemon oil in there. Never do that. If you have bare wood there, seal it with something like urethane or shellac. Shellac's always a safe choice. You just want to prevent water and dirt and moisture from getting into there because it will stain. It looks like I've decided that I've had enough looking at the rust, and we're going to use this product here to get rid of it. It's a very interesting product. I've seen other people use it and decided to give it a try. It's supposed to be non-toxic, I believe. It has no scent that I can tell. And it takes the rust off. The rust is now off, and we are off to nickel plating. Using my card scraper with a bit of tape to help protect the finish, to take the binding down to a proper level, flush with the back of the guitar. This is my first time. It turned out okay. Here we have a piece of veneer that's just gone, and I applied a bit of wood filler to the back to bring it level, and now I'm trying to dye the wood filler to match. At this point, I've decided to do a sunburst. This is my first time really messing with stains, and I am very skeptical at this point. It didn't seem like it was getting dark enough. Here I threw one coat of clear lacquer on there because I wanted to see what the stain looked like when it was wet. It was at this point that I realized this is actually not painted on maple stripes, which is something people did. It's actually maple, and it's quite beautiful, so I decided I wanted to try to make it look as good as possible. The pick guard was stark white on the bottom side. I was hoping that it was tortoise all the way through, but the stark white looked terrible, so I used the air sprayer there to spray on some shellac mixed with orange and brown stain. This is a powder stain that I mixed with. You can mix it with water or alcohol. I highly recommend the alcohol, though, as it evaporates quickly, and the water seems to raise the grain, which creates a number of problems later. I'm starting to feel more confident about this stain. You just have to apply a lot of coats, and here I'm using the lighter color even on the outside, and it seems to really darken things up and help smooth it out. Time to get rid of some of the old clear coat from the outsides. I tried doing this chemically and failed. The fingerboard had a bit of gloss to it from overspray, and I wanted to take that off. I'm still not happy with the pick guard. I am very happy with these card scrapers though. Instead of being a 45-degree angle sticking off the side like it belongs on a Stratocaster or a Les Paul, I wanted it to be round, more like a natural element. More clamping. I'm feeling really confident at this point. There's still orange peel on the guitar at this point though, and I'm learning how to get rid of it. For me, what worked was sanding from 600 to 1,000 to 1,500, and then the key was going up to 2,000. And then just buffing it out with a buffing wheel. I'm very excited to put this together and play it at this point. The finish has been drying for like 2 or 3 days. It really should have been drying for about a month. At least 2 weeks. I'm probably becoming mildly intoxicated from its presence, actually. It certainly felt like that holding it and playing it over the next week. New Clusion tuners, 3 in a line. The holes lined up perfectly for the tuner pegs themselves, but the screws, the original screw holes needed to be filled. I did that with a piece of mahogany, like a mahogany toothpick, and I drilled new ones. I put the original sleeves back in though because they're very vintage looking. Here it is in a tweed case I got for it. The frets turned out lovely. I was able to get the action very playable. And the finish came out pretty nice, but became sort of scratched from me playing on it before it was totally done. But I kind of don't hate it with the mild scratches in it. They're tiny and there's many of them. It would be very common for an instrument like this. It would look weird without them, actually. The action's fantastic, but there's really no room to take it down without modifying the bridge. I was able to hear a much better musician play this, and I was quite impressed. It was actually a very good instrument for him. It's very boomy. Well, thanks for watching.